You're listening to Janesville Community Radio Breaking News. This is Yuri Rashkin.
The following program is a production of Janesville Community Radio, Inc. Please note sentiments and opinions expressed may not necessarily be those of Janesville Community Radio, Inc., program hosts, underwriters, or their collaborators.
We're being joined once again by Dennis Hughes, a representative for local AFSCME 938. Dennis, welcome back to Discover Janesville. What happened since we last spoke a couple of days ago?
Yuri, thank you so much for having me. It's obviously very important that I've had this outlet to get the truth out, and so I really appreciate what you've done here. And thank you for having me again to follow up. So after Thursday, when we met, I went straight to the Education Services Center to request a copy of the public sign-in sheet that's sitting in the public lobby that everyone basically that enters the building needs to sign when they come in. And so I didn't think it would be a big issue to request a copy of those documents. What I was requesting was copies of the sign-in sheet from the Friday before when I was turning in my complaints to the Tuesday at 5 p.m. when the decision was made on my complaints. And so all I was requesting were about 8 pages of the sign-in sheet. And so I just requested that document, and I waited in the lobby to get a copy of that. As I was waiting in the lobby about an hour later, ultimately, the way this was resolved was that the police were called in. They were told that I was creating a disturbance, which was untrue. All I was asking for was that public document. I was sitting there reading a book. I was reading a book called Class Action, Activist Teacher's Guide. Everyone should look that up online. It's a free PDF. But so I was just sitting there reading a book, and they said that I was creating a disturbance by doing so, and they had me removed from the building.
That was Thursday right after you came back.
Thursday, right. And so the police, I was actually able to get a video of the encounter with the police, and I was able to the police's credit, I was able to have a discussion with them about the reasons for removal. And so what they believe is that whenever someone from the district calls and asks to have someone removed, they need to remove that person. And what I was explaining to the police was that I was simply requesting a public document, and not just any public document, a public document that is sitting in a public location. And so when the Dr. Schulte's assistant came out and told me I would not be able to get a copy of that public document, I went to the public document and I attempted to take a picture of the public document. And when I attempted to take a picture, she removed the book. And as she was removing the book, I took a picture of her removing the book. And then the next person that walked in the building, they looked very confused as to why there was no sign-in sheet, because they had obviously been there before. And so I took a picture of that person looking for the sign-in sheet. And also the lady at the front desk, Laura Griswold, I took a picture of her handing the sign-in sheet through that her window. And so basically what had happened, they took the public document I was requesting and put it in Dr. Schulte's office. So I think that's a breach of what their policy is and protocols are, and I think that needs to be explained. But the police couldn't get me an answer, and all they told me was that I could come back the next day and meet with Dr. Schulte and get a copy of that document.
What happened? So police showed up, and they told you that you had to leave the building?
Yes, they told me I had to leave. They didn't give me any reason other than that.
Okay, so that was Thursday.
Yes, that was Thursday.
And then you were done and you left.
I was done and I was left. And the same thing happened on Monday. And so I was there at 4 p.m. trying to get a public document on Monday. And the police came, told me I had to leave, and they told me, the police didn't come after on Monday. They came on Tuesday. But the police didn't come at that point, but they just did not give me a copy of that document. So I went back.
What was your interaction with Janesville Police Department? What is your opinion of the police officers that were interacting with you? Because in the videos that you shared, you were saying Dontre Hamilton, and people who were watching this who may not know enough of the background of the situation were feeling like you were being just an agitator.
Huh. Well, what
was your logic there?
I am a union staff representative. Part of my job is organizing, and one of strategies of unions is to agitate. And one of the reasons that we agitate is to provoke responses from employers that we're dealing with. And in this case, my agitation has led to responses that have been inappropriate. And so I think it's furthered my case by creating a bit of agitation. But I really have not intended to. I have not gone to the building a single time and with the intention of agitating. I've simply been trying to do my job. I have union business at this building. I have multiple members in that building. And so all I've been trying to do is do my job. And so I've been very happy with the conduct of the police. I don't like the way they're being used. I think they're being used for intimidation. I don't think 4 police officers are necessary for a very peaceful union representative. But I do think when they do get there that they have given me an opportunity to speak and have somewhat of a back and forth with them. So the Dontre Hamilton case specifically, that was just kind of a moment of downtime where we were waiting for two police that were in the facility to come back out, and so I was speaking to two officers. And I just asked, because I have been involved in the movement to get justice for Dontre Hamilton in Milwaukee, and so I'm very concerned about that case, and I just brought it up because I had the opportunity to speak with two police officers, so I wanted to get their opinion. All right. So then on Friday, what happened? So the day before, I was told that I could come back the next day and get a copy of the document. I came back early, around 8 a.m., the next day to meet with Dr. Schulte and get a copy of the document as the police told me I could. When I got there, I rang the buzzer. No one answered. I didn't know if anyone was even at the door, so I rang the buzzer. They didn't answer. They basically came over the intercom eventually and told me that I would not be getting in the building. Eventually, the police showed up and told me the same thing, that I wouldn't be able to get in the building. The police officer that initially responded, I told her all I was doing was asking for the public document that was sitting on a table, and I pointed to it to her, and she said, "Oh, it shouldn't be a problem. We should be able to get that if that's all you're here for." And then eventually they all realized that the district would not be giving me that public document that was very easily accessible, and that what they were saying was that I had to make a formal request. And that's normal. Normally when I work with cities, counties, school districts, I would make a formal Freedom of Information request or a union request for the information that I was seeking. But in this case, and having seen fraud perpetrated in front of my face, I didn't feel comfortable emailing Dr. Schulte about what documents I was looking for. I thought it was more appropriate, especially since the document I was requesting was in a public area. I thought it was more appropriate for me to enter the building, request a copy of the document, and just get a copy of the document before the administration would have a chance to fraudulently doctor that document. So. All right. Now, when is the phone call took place that we're going to be discussing next? So there was, after the police were called a third time on that Friday morning, there was a meeting set up, a conference call between AFSCME leaders, my bosses, our attorney, and also leaders from the district. And so Dr. Schulte, her attorney, Julie Lewis, HR Director Steve Sperry, and Board President Greg Ardrey all got on a conference call at the same time in the middle of Friday afternoon to talk to my boss about my conduct. Okay, now when you say her attorney, is it her personal attorney or is it district's attorney? Or Well, Julie Lewis has held herself out as both the district's attorney and the board's attorney, but having spoken to her and understanding the way that she is acting and being able to see through her actions, I realize that she's really acting in the interest of Dr. Schulte specifically, and clearly not the district, because she's done multiple things that have been contrary to what the law is and contrary to what the community would demand if they knew the situation. And so now we have a few pieces of audio from this conference call that we're going to share, and we'll get your response, and great, we'll go from there.
Safety and concern for our employees, the utmost, the only issue for me.
Board President Ardrey was just, I don't know if you could hear him, he's sitting far away from the phone, but he was saying the safety and concerns of the employees is the issue for the board, as well as obviously for district administration. So it sounds like what you're saying is that Mr. Hughes is or will be shortly instructed not to enter any district premises, including the grounds or the buildings, and that will take effect immediately and will remain in effect until I hear from you, Rick, and from Colin Good.
What any other district
and public events really being not on any district premises. So that means any school events, any district-sponsored events.
Dennis, having heard this, what is your response?
Well, first of all, I think it's most likely inappropriate for Board President Greg Ardrey to have any opinion on this matter, since the board has yet to meet regarding this matter, and I don't believe he's gotten the opinion of other board members before speaking for the entire board. So I think that's inappropriate from the start, but I think you can tell from that sound that he is somewhat in distress, it sounds like. He doesn't want to be there or saying what he's saying, and it's a very short comment from him. And then Julie Lewis, the attorney for Karen Schulte, then goes on to elaborate much further beyond what he was actually saying. And so I think it's inappropriate for her. Her interpretation of the board president's comments are inappropriate, and her speaking for the board is also inappropriate since she's the district's attorney at best, or most likely Karen Schulte's attorney.
Did you respond during the conversation?
Not at that point. I did respond at one point to Dr. Steve Sperry, the Human Resources Director, who claimed that when I was outside of the building, I had basically been threatening employees, and also that I told a secretary that she was a lowlife. And so when he said that I called someone a lowlife, I had to respond. So I did speak up at that point, even though I was prohibited from speaking on the conference call, because I don't believe that anyone under the age of 30 has ever said the term lowlife, and I definitely didn't at that moment. And so
why were you prohibited from speaking?
Well, they didn't want me on the call at all, and so luckily my boss...
Could it be because you were recording it?
No, I don't think so at all. They never told me I couldn't record anything. There's no expectation of privacy for those leaders and those public officials that were on the conference call. So no one said I could not record anything. They did say that I couldn't speak because they wanted to initially have a meeting with only the executive director of Council 40, and he insisted that his staff representative be on the call. That's his policy, as it should be. Due process is very important for unions, obviously, and so our leaders make sure that their employees are given due process, and so that was part of that.
All right, let's play the second piece of audio. We'll go from there.
Before you go, I think two more points need to be made here. One is that, and we try to be very clear about the fact that we feel that Mr. Hughes has exhibited behavior above and beyond regular business-like conduct. His level of agitation has provoked a lot of concern among employees, as I said, about their safety. And schools, buildings, are locked for a reason. We know that people who are become agitated and fixated on school employees have done terrible things in this country to school children and staff, and we take this extremely seriously for good reason. So we need to make sure that you also take this situation extremely seriously and hear us when we're telling you that we are experiencing, the district is experiencing behavior and conduct that is of a grave concern and is making employees feel in danger.